Imagine a land stretching from frozen pine forests to endless sun-baked deserts, rivers untouched by foreign eyes, skies unbroken by sails. And then, pale shapes appear on the horizon. Ships, dozens of them. Within just a few centuries, this vast land would be carved into empires, each speaking a different tongue, flying a different flag, and all fighting for the same prize: America. The late 1400s and early 1500s were an age of restless ambition. Spain and Portugal had already divided much of the known world with the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494. The Portuguese, though absent from permanent settlements in the future US, mapped coastlines, trained explorers, and developed the sturdy caravels that carried others across the Atlantic. But the real clash for this continent would be fought between Spain, France, England, and the Netherlands, four rival powers chasing land, wealth, and glory. Spain was the first to plant its flag. In 1513, Juan Ponce de León landed in Florida, claiming it for Spain and naming it La Florida for its lush flowers. In 1565, they founded St. Augustine, still the oldest permanent European settlement in the continental United States. From Florida, Spanish expeditions pushed westward, Coronado's men crossing the plains of Kansas, Oñate marching into New Mexico, and missionaries riding deep into California. They built a chain of missions and presidios, military forts, introducing cattle, wheat, horses, and Catholicism. But their gaze was fixed on treasure and defense, not on mass settlement. Far to the north, France was taking a different route. In 1608, Samuel de Champlain founded Quebec, but French explorers like Marquette and La Salle paddled south along the rivers, creating a lifeline from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. This empire, called New France, included the fertile Mississippi Valley, the trading posts of the Great Lakes, and the bustling port of New Orleans. Unlike Spain, France relied heavily on alliances with indigenous nations, trading beaver pelts for muskets, iron tools, and cloth. Jesuit missionaries lived among native tribes, learning languages and customs. The French approach was lighter in numbers, but their territory was massive, wrapping around Britain's colonies like a crescent. England entered late, but with an approach that would reshape the land. In 1607, they founded Jamestown, Virginia. 13 years later, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, Massachusetts. Over the next century, 13 colonies spread along the Atlantic coast, each with its own identity. Virginia thrived on tobacco. The Carolinas grew rice and indigo. New England built ships and fished the cold Atlantic. Families arrived in great numbers, building towns with markets, churches, and assemblies. The British encouraged self-rule, allowing colonial assemblies to pass local laws, a freedom that would later ignite revolution. By the mid-1700s, the British colonies had swelled to over 2 million people, pressing westward into indigenous lands. The Dutch carved out their own piece in 1624. New Amsterdam, a bustling trading port at the mouth of the Hudson River. They brought tolerance, commerce, and a cosmopolitan spirit. By 1664, the British seized it, renaming it New York. Yet Dutch culture lingered, in place names like Harlem and Brooklyn, in law, and in a love of trade that the city still carries today. By the mid-1700s, North America was a dangerous chessboard. Spain held Florida and the vast Southwest. France commanded the Mississippi Valley and Great Lakes. Britain's colonies lined the East Coast. The inevitable clash came in 1754 with the French and Indian War. part of the 7 Years' War raging across the globe. British redcoats and colonial militias fought French troops and their native allies in dense forests and along winding rivers. After 9 brutal years, Britain emerged victorious. France ceded all lands east of the Mississippi. Spain, forced to trade, gave up Florida but gained Louisiana. The map of America was redrawn. By 1763, Britain stood as the dominant power in North America, but victory had cost dearly. War debts mounted. To recover, Britain tightened control, enforcing navigation laws, levying taxes like the Stamp Act, and restricting Western settlement. To London, this was fair. To the colonists, it felt like chains. Resentment simmered in taverns, in newspapers, and in town halls. The colonization of America was a saga of sails and steel, of promises and betrayals, of peoples colliding on a scale the world had never seen. It began with explorers chasing riches and ended with a people demanding liberty. For the British colonies, the age of empires was ending, and the age of a new nation was about to begin. The United States was born from colonial soil, and the marks of that birth run deep. The English left their language, their laws, and their idea of self-government. Town meetings, trial by jury, the very concept of rights, all drawn from across the Atlantic. From Spain came cattle ranching, irrigation methods, and place names that still roll like music: San Diego, Santa Fe, Los Angeles. The French left rivers traced with their explorers' names: Des Moines, Baton Rouge, and a tradition of trade and diplomacy woven into the frontier. But colonialism's shadow was long. It brought centuries of conflict with indigenous nations, the seizure of their lands, and the near erasure of cultures that had thrived for millennia. It brought the transatlantic slave trade, millions of Africans torn from their homelands, forced to labor in fields and homes, their descendants still carrying the weight of that history. It reshaped the land itself. Forests cleared for tobacco and cotton, wildlife hunted for trade, rivers bent to serve settlement. And yet, from this collision of peoples came the complex tapestry of America. Its music, its food, its architecture, its restless drive to expand and reinvent. Colonialism built the foundations of the United States, but it also lit the fuse for revolutions, civil rights struggles, and debates that still echo in the halls of power today. The age of empires had ended, but the legacy of those empires was just beginning.